Hey there, hope you're having a wonderful day. So in this video, we're going to go over a programming exercise with reading and writing to a file. So for this exercise, you'll need to click on the GitHub link to get the text file. So here you can see we have a text file and it's called Harry Potter book blurb. So basically this file contains the blurb of the first Harry Potter book in English. So if I open this up, you can see it's all in a single line, and basically a blurb, if you don't know, is a preview on what the book is about. And so you'll always find the blurb on the back of a book. So here you can see it says Harry Potter has never been the star of a Quidditch team and so on. Okay. So go to the GitHub link in the video description and download this text file. And for this program that I want you to write, basically you need to read the text file and create a new text file called word-count.txt. This file will contain a list of unique words, and we should not consider two words with different casing. So let's have all the words be in lowercase. And of course, not all the words are in lowercase, such as for the name Harry, and at the start of sentences, you can see this for. This is also capitalized. So when you're creating this program, you need to convert the word to lowercase, okay? And we should skip any non-alphabet characters and remove them. So if you see spells with a comma, this should just be spell, okay? So in order to complete this assignment, I highly recommend you watch the previous several videos. So we went over various containers or data structures, such as the set, the map, tuples, pairs, and I'll give you a hint, you're going to need one of those to solve this problem. And we also went over useful string functions that help you modify characters in a string. So if you need to review that, I'll link the video in the description below. Alright, so just pause here and try to solve the problem, and then in a bit we'll go over the problem together. Alright, so let's start the problem. And we already included fstream, so this is going to be used for reading and writing to a file. So here I'm going to use the ifstream. So this is input only, so read only, and I'm going to call the variable input file. And here we're going to pass in the file name. And actually we have it over here, so I'm just going to copy this, paste it here. Okay, so let's read the file. So first we need to remember to always close the file at the very end. So here I'm going to do input file.close, and in between I'm going to do some work with the file. So if input file dot is open, so if the file opens successfully, we're going to read from it. So here I'm going to do string word, and also include the line number, so int line number. And basically we're just going to read word by word and print it out line by line. So since this is one single line, I'm just going to use while input file double angle bracket word. So if you remember from the video on reading and writing to a file, if we're separating the words by space, we can get the input like this instead of using getLine. And here let's just print out what we're working with here. So cout line number plus plus. So we're going to increment the line number after every print statement. And then word. Alright, let's save and run the program. Alright, so we have all the words, and you can see some of them have punctuation. So over here we have a period, over here we have 3 dots, and over here Harry is capitalized, but we want it to be lowercase. And if I scroll up, you can see there's a lot of words, and some of them have commas. And we also have a colon here. Alright, so let's do some cleaning up. So here I'm going to do for size t of I equals 0, I less than word.size, I plus plus, word of I is going to be to lower word of I. So essentially we're just taking each character inside the word and converting it to a lowercase and reassigning it back at the index. So let's save and run the program. Alright, and now you can see Harry is in lowercase, and if I scroll up, you can see every single word is lowercase. Well, we can skip that one probably. So we have to take that into consideration. So let's get rid of some punctuation, and there's an edge case, and that is if the word is it's, like so, this punctuation is actually necessary for the word. So we're going to get rid of all the punctuation that comes after. So over here, I'm going to add a while loop. So while not word.empty and word at index word.size -1. So the last character, if this is not, is alpha. So we're going to pass it into this function. So basically, if the last index, if the character at that index is not alphabetic, then we're going to remove it. So here I'm going to do word.popBack. And we're making this check so that we stop doing this while loop if we end up popping out all the characters, okay? So let's save and run the program. Here you can see the period is gone. If I scroll up, the triple dots are gone. And we don't have any punctuation, except if it's in between alphabet characters. And here, I think we had a dash, and that got removed. And this as well. Alright, so we clean up the word, and now we need to count the words. So over here, I'm going to add a map. So a map can be used for counting. So in order to use the map, we need to import it. So include map. So over here, I'm going to do map of string, which is the key, and int, which is the count. So here I'm going to do word map. And essentially, we are using the word as a key since it's a string, and we're going to count the number of occurrences. So over here, I'm going to do if not word.empty. So if it is an empty space, we're not going to include it as a word. And it might be an empty space because there are some characters that are only punctuation and we removed them from this while loop. So in that case, we don't want to add the empty space. So over here, if it's not empty, I'm going to make a check. If word map.count word is equal to 0, this means that we haven't placed this word inside our map. So over here, I'm going to initialize it. So word map of word is going to be 0. And then over here, we can just do word map of word plus equal 1. So this is going to check to see if the word is empty. If it's not empty, then we're going to check to see if it's in the map. If it's not in the map, we're going to add an entry into our map. And then after that, we just increment it by 1. So this is counting every time we see the word. All right, so now we have all the words in our word map. Let's create another file. So over here, I'm going to do OF stream. So this is output stream, output file. And I'm going to call this word-count.txt. And we can just iterate through the map if you remember the syntax. We can iterate through the map using iterators, or we can iterate through using a pair of keys and values. So here I'm going to do for const auto. And let's move that there. So this is const reference. And here I'm going to do word and word count word map. So this is using the for each loop or ranged for loop. Basically, we are getting two variables, the key and value, and we're assigning each record to these two variables, okay? So in this case, I'm going to do output file word space word count and endline. And never forget, we need to close the file, so output file dot close. Alright, so this is going to write to a new file called word-count.txt. And you can see in our folder, we don't have that text file, okay? So let's say we run the program. Alright, so we ran the program. Now in our folder, we have a new file, word-count. And now let's open it. And you can see we have all the unique words over here, and we have the number of occurrences. So the word A appears 11 times, and we have abominable, which appears once, about appears 2, and so on. So if you scroll down, we have all the words. And another thing we can add is the line count, or number of words, because the number of words corresponds to the number of lines. So if someone is reading this file, maybe they would like to know how many words there are. In which case I can do output file word map.size. And similar to how we check to see if the file is open over here, we should do the same for the output file. So here I'm going to do if output file dot is open, and I'm going to cut and paste in here. Okay, so let's save and run the program. All right, now let's check our file. And you can see we have 107 words, okay? And this is nice because if you're reading through a book, it's nice to know how many unique words there are in a book, especially if you're learning a language or if it's for a child learning a language. You can gauge how useful the book is for acquiring vocabulary based on the number of unique words in the book, okay? Alright, so that's it for this video. Hopefully you found this video helpful and hopefully you're able to solve the problem or at least come close to solving the problem. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. And as always, if you want to stay up to date for more C++ tutorials, make sure you subscribe to the channel and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.